Principle 5, be skillful. As far as ball striking goes, one of the skills that we have to control or get skillful at is distance control. So we talked about solid striking, the divot and center face contact. Then we talked about direction, the face and the path. Now today is time to control or get more skillful at distance control. So where would you start? If we need to get better at controlling the distance as well, what's most important on that list?
Yeah, so with distance control, make sure that your center face contact and your divot is good before you start messing around with these other variables.
Yes.
Because if you don't have the ability to repeat that, what we're about to introduce to you doesn't even matter. So you have to make sure that the divot is relatively in a good spot and you're pretty damn close to the center of the face, or these experiments won't work very well for you. The first place we're gonna go is we're gonna go back to the easy button. One of the things that controls distance is the length of the swing. So what we're gonna do here initially is we're just gonna play around with swinging the golf club different lengths. Shorter, longer, somewhere in between, and you can still use the slight, moderate, severe continuum in order to play around with this first variable.
So the size of the swing matters.
Size of the swing matters.
Once you hit it solid.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, good. So a lot of folks will come to us at B Golf and they'll ask, well, is my swing too long or is it too short? And the truth is we don't know, but this experiment will give you the opportunity to find out what swing size helps you the most, and then furthermore, as far as controlling distance, a tool in the tool bag to help.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then so you talked about slight, moderate, severe, so on and so forth. So show us a swing that's like too long.
Might not be too long for everybody, but it's pretty long for me.
Too long for you, yeah. Okay, and then show us a swing size that's too short. And then somewhere in between. So back to being adaptable, being easily able to adjust the size of the motion, yeah?
Yeah.
This is really, really going to help in your wedge game too. So when you get into those 60-yard shots, 80-yard shots, what have you, the one-size-fits-all approach typically doesn't work. Yeah,
that is true.
All right, very good. And then so you talked about slight, moderate, severe. You'd have folks do this on the range?
Yeah, most definitely. Great way to control distance with your wedges too. So, once you start getting inside of 100 yards, there's all these in-between zones. So as you're playing around with this, you can start to figure out what swing length is going to allow me to carry the ball certain distances. So that way, when you're trying to control the distance from inside of 100, you have solutions to your problems out there.
Yeah, so we're going to keep the swinging motion free, and you can just simply do a smaller version of that, a bigger version, so on and so forth.
You got it.
Okay, so the size is where you want to look first, and then after that, then where do we look?
You could go to the speed of the swing. So you could swing faster, you could swing slower, you can swing somewhere in between. This is another really fun experiment for all of you to run at home, because don't be surprised if sometimes you're trying to swing at a slower speed and the ball goes further. We've seen that.
Yeah, sometimes this one influences the solid contact.
That is true.
The size too, for that matter. So you can kind of
both of them do.
Yeah. Okay.
So playing around with the speed of the swing is another thing that you can do. And then once again, we have players at B Golf. Some like to control distance through tempo. Some like to do it through swing length. Some maybe do a combination of both of those things. So being playful with that matters.
I think that's one of our aha moments, when we started coaching this way, is that we found out some people controlled it better through the tempo or the speed, and other folks regulated it better with the size. And then the problem with us is we didn't know who was who. So if we prescribed one solution for somebody who it didn't work for, we hurt that player. We didn't help them.
That is true.
Whereas this, we know for sure the size and the speed of the motion are two variables that, once it's solid, regulate the distance, and everybody's a little bit different.
Yep.
If we talked about the tempo, are there players in history that you can think are like really, really fast tempo players?
Yes.
Who are like great world-class players and they swung fast?
Nick Price swings exceptionally fast.
Yes.
So if we went in there and said, hey, Nick, you're swinging a little too fast. You got to slow it down a little. We're probably going to ruin his career.
So Nick Price on one, in my mind, Lanny Watkins or Tiger Woods at times, pretty fast. And then think slow. So who can you think of that would have a slower tempo?
Think Ernie Els, very, very slow. He's usually the first one that comes to mind. Everyone describes his swing as slow, easy, effortless, but the ball flies off the club face, I will tell you that. So he's probably the one that I can think of off the top of my mind that I'd go watch him if you want to see what a slower tempo looks like.
Yeah, very good. So the point here is, if we told Ernie Els he needed to speed up and swing like Tiger or Nick Price,
ruin his career too.
Ruin his. So the point is, again, the theme of this book is, there's no one size fits all. You are going to have to do your own homework, and as you're doing it, as you're already engaged in the book, size and speed.
Yep.
There's a third variable that will influence the distance goes. Talk about the easy button.
what club you hit, right? So if you look at just your golf club in general, right? If I set all three of these on the ground, each one of these clubs, if you want to come on in here, George, and zoom in on these, they have a different amount of loft on the club face. So you notice the one on my far right here, the face is very flat. So the flatter the face, the further the ball is going to go. And then if you look at the wedge, which is this one over here, notice that the club face is angled backwards a good amount. So that ball is going to go higher and shorter. And then the 7-iron falls right in between those two. So the flatter the face, the further the ball goes, then the more loft you see on the face, the less far the ball is going to go. So easy thing that you can do at home is if it's not going far enough and you feel like you're hitting it solid,
switch clubs.
Grab the next club in the bag.
Another thing about these clubs, as you can tell, is the flatter face one is the longest and the most lofted club is the shortest. So the length of that club will also tell you a story about how far or short that ball will fly.
Short clubs go short, long clubs go long.
Yeah. So we got the size of the speed you're gonna play around with, the speed of the swing you're gonna play around with. People call that tempo in the golfing world. And then different club selection. So we've often found people get stuck doing the same thing over and over again. These experiments will really, really help you start to understand cause and effect and why the ball does what it does. Okay, keep training your skills and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.